If all you want is that shiny rank of diamond, today is your day. While it may seem extremely difficult, you'll be getting there in no time. We're going to be going over the top 10 tips to get to diamond. My name is Nathan, and this is Blizzard Guides. Before we get into the video, I just want to quickly say that we're going to be launching our IGTV channel, so if that's your kind of thing and you're interested in it, go follow us at overwatch.guides on Instagram. We'll upload the first video soon, so make sure to go look out for that. Anyway, let's get right into this list. At number 10, mechanics are king. If there's any one thing that will get you to diamond, even if you're the most toxic player and don't really play as a good teammate, it's good mechanics. If you're going to climb the matchmaker, learning mechanics well and learning how to maximize them in the context of a matchmaking game is going to get you to climb fast, even on roles like main tank and support. For example, on the support side with Lucio, if you're getting 1 to 2 kills per fight as well as speeding the right allies and then always doing enough damage to get your beat, you'll be carrying games easily. I did it myself and it is very well possible. However, I do recommend that you do learn a tank or DPS, particularly if you're a support player, just because it does become easier to climb with those roles. But you can just flex to the tank every once in a while and main your support hero. But regardless, perfecting your aim and your ability usage as well as your positioning is the way to go. At number 9, we're going over the top methods to improve your mechanics. FFA is by far the best way. If you play any role in FFA, you will hone your mechanics and increase your effectiveness as that role or hero that you play. On the other hand, I would actually stray away from using the aim training custom lobbies, as those typically run with headshot only, which is actually really bad practice if your mechanics aren't already at the diamond level. Specialized servers like Widow headshot only or Tracer 1v1s are an exception, so I'm more so specifically talking about the aim training lobbies that I see so often. Another good way to improve mechanics is by playing a lot of quick play with a 6-stack. Originally, when I was a much lower SR, I would do that to improve and it really helped my aim out as Widow. But in general, practicing a lot in FFA or deathmatch type game modes, 1v1 is another good example, will really help you to get your mechanics up to the best level that you can in the shortest amount of time. At number 8, really learning the value of your ults. If your mechanics are on level with your SR, meaning if you're mechanically skilled as a gold player while you're in gold, then the next best way to get a competitive edge on your side is by having disciplined ult usage. Ultimates in Overwatch are ridiculously strong, so knowing how to use yours properly given the situation, as well as knowing what ults will be necessary to win a fight is really crucial. I recommend that if you're calling the shots on your team, have a roadmap of how you want the ults to look like. So for example, you start the fight out with a grab dragon combo, and then the next fight you only commit your riptire to try and kill the enemy's Hanzo so that they can't combo, and then prepare your transcendence for the next fight to counter the enemy's inevitable grab dragon combo that will happen. And then after that, you just use shatter plus nano boost to close up the last fight. If you communicate this to your team and the majority of them listen to your callouts, you'll be able to manage the ult economy to the best of your ability, generally meaning that you will dictate the direction of the fight. So knowing how to use yours as well as balancing the enemies is a sure way to go. At number 7, shot calling. Shot calling is a bit of a mixed bag, especially with the older version of comp that was existent in Overwatch, but now it is definitely a much more viable strat. Now, what I see a lot of players below Diamond do is try to call every little thing and try to micromanage their team like they see certain pro or high level shot callers do. This in theory should work, but as you'll find, your teams generally aren't as responsive in levels such as the ones that we are dealing with today, as well as your calls just not being as top tier as these pros or high level shot callers. For this reason, you're going to be wanting to call a few important things and then let your team deal with the rest on their own. Primarily, you want to just make 2 distinct calls: push up and fall back. If you can get this across to your team when you think that the fight is winnable or unwinnable respectively, and you really learn to make good calls, you'll be keeping your team really safe. Secondly, you want to call the ults. This type of call might not be very respective, and if it isn't, just let it go and continue fighting your best. Ult callouts, when respected though, can really give your team an edge, but it can be a hit or miss depending on the teammates that you have. So use that to your own discretion. And lastly, just simply call targets. Getting your team to focus can help a lot, but if your team already has someone calling targets, just let them do that themselves, as 2 people calling different targets does more harm than good. At number 6, LFGing. If you have the option, you should always use the look for group tool. While it may take a while to find the right type of 6-stack, once you do, you'll be having a good time in comp as well as climbing really fast. I recommend that you do turn enforce roles off, but put suggested roles in. This way your team has an idea of what they'll be playing. Now, when you play with your 6-stacks, try and stick with them as long as possible, so don't be angry with them for lost games or pushes. In the long run, you'll gain more SR if you're trying to stick with that team rather than getting upset over one loss. 6-stacks currently have a global 53% win rate, which is a huge advantage in the grand scheme of things, so make sure that you play with that stack as much as possible. Also, make sure to develop what types of comps work really well for that 6-stack, so if dive is your specialty with your LFG group, then play dive as much as possible, and when you get countered, learn what you can switch to, but really develop a core strategy that you guys will be running, and it'll help you in the long run. At number 5, learn where your limit is. Some games are just unwinnable, and you do get bad queue times. If you're doing poorly, don't be afraid to admit it to your team, or rather just stop playing for a little bit to reset your mentality. Even the best players have off days, so don't force yourself into a 10-game lose streak just because you wanted to rank up a day faster. Also, recognize what gets you tilted quicker, and try to minimize the impact of such things, even if you have to leave voice and hide chat. I frequently do this because I know that I will get tilted and begin making poor decisions the moment that I get two teammates that are fighting. There is nothing wrong with leaving voice, even if your team asks you to return. A tilted teammate is worse than a teammate who isn't actively communicating. So just really learn where your limit is, and don't be afraid to set a standard for what you want to do. And also, just don't be afraid to take a break. Lose streaks will punish you harder than you can imagine. At number 4, if you have the opportunity and the skill set, you should definitely hero swap to counter the enemy. This is one of those things that when mastered, you'll actually be ridiculously effective even if your skill set isn't up to par with your elo. For example, if the enemy has all ground-based heroes like Soldier, McCree, Ryan, Zarya, Ana, and Zen, switching to Junkrat is a hard counter to nearly their entire comp, and it will allow you to do a ton of work even if Junkrat isn't your best hero. Conversely, if the enemy has no hitscan or diva, you can go Pharah to counter their comp entirely, allowing for a quick and easy win. Identify what the enemy's comp's weaknesses are and switch accordingly. At number 3, don't flex outside of your comfort zone. This is something that is definitely controversial, but if you haven't played a specific hero or you're just playing bad on a specific hero or role, don't be afraid to speak up. If you think that someone else on the team might be more capable, don't be afraid to ask either. The important thing is that you don't say that you can't play a specific hero just because you don't want to, or don't ask someone to play a specific hero because you want to play what they're playing. Be honest with yourself. For example, I can't really play dive DPS like Tracer or Genji to the effectiveness of other people in Masters to GM, so if I'm left with that role, I usually ask someone to take the DPS role for me, and I offer to flex to a separate role or hero, which usually ends up with me and a teammate being more comfortable with our heroes, allowing us to win and synergize to a better extent. Now, while you shouldn't flex outside of your comfort zone, you should definitely learn a hero in every single role. I would recommend learning one dive DPS and one slower DPS, one off tank and one main tank, and one off heal and main heal. If you can learn those 6 types of heroes, you'll be able to flex to nearly any hero in the game outside of the ones that have very high skill floors, since those technically take a bit more of specialization than some of the others. But if you learn all 6 sub roles, you'll be able to play really well. However, if you don't know one of the sub roles, so if you're maybe not good at off heals or divey DPS, then just don't be afraid to ask. At number 2, don't necessarily force the meta. This is another huge one that is largely important. Don't try and play the meta if your team doesn't want to. Just because the pros are playing double sniper doesn't mean that you have to do the same. The decision making behind pro metas are completely different and outside of the realm of even players at GM, so forcing your team to play a specific comp almost always does more harm than good. If 5 out of 6 players are playing a specific comp, however, and one is not, then there could be a case to force the meta, but if half your team doesn't want to run a specific comp or a meta comp, just don't run that comp. Structuring your comp around 222 and then maybe branching to triple DPS or triple tank is viable, but don't expect your team to play a very specific comp of specific heroes, because more often than not, you will not get 6 players who all fit your expectation of the meta. And lastly, at number 1, it's a bit of a cheesy one, but it's actually the most important thing. Just have fun when you play. Seriously, I see so many players who are super tilted about their SR and say things like, I've already found my perfect sensitivity, but it just won't work. Or, I've played X hero for 100 hours and this other guy is 100,000 SR above me and only played him for 20 hours and I have so many hours, why am I not good? Please just recognize that there are some people that are going to be better than you regardless of how much playtime that they have. You're not promised any rank, so you have to work for it, but enjoy the climb while you're at it. Focus on learning the intricacies of a role or have some fun with some cheeky plays. After all, you're not going to get better overnight, and there isn't some magic tip that will give you a 500 SR boost in one night. Climbing the ladder takes time, but it is doable no matter where you're sitting at currently. Just focus on learning the game and enjoying it, not the number given to you on the matchmaker. You will climb if you work on the things above. The question is, how well do you apply yourself to do it? Anyway, let me know what you guys thought about this video. If you have any other tips for other players or you have any questions, just leave a comment down below. I really do appreciate some of the extremely well thought out comments that you guys have left. It really makes me glad to see a good community forming here on this channel. Also, let me know if you guys would like to see a shot calling guide. I've seen a few comments about it here and there, but I would like to see the broader opinion. Also, don't forget to leave a like on this video if it helped you understand the game a bit better, and if you enjoyed this content, consider getting subscribed and notified when we upload. It really helps us out a bunch and it really means a lot. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a nice day. My name is Nathan and this was Blizzard Guides.